was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Through him all things were made. The Word was life, and that life was the light of men.
And one voice breathed, and man had life.
The light shined in darkness, but the darkness understood it not.
A study was done among 3,000 adults of all ages, asking them questions about getting older. And the results found that most people over the age of 30 felt younger than they actually were. Now, people in their 20s, they felt like they were in their 20s. But the majority of people in their 30s, they also felt like they were in their 20s. And people in their 40s felt like they were in their 30s. 1 in 3 people over 65 said they felt 20 years younger. Now, I admit to you that I'm in my early 50s, but I feel like I'm in my 20s. And Bill here is older than me, and I think he feels like he's in his 20s too.
I shouldn't tell you this, would be before 1917.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Ruth was born in 17, I think.
Okay.
She might
grandfather
not tell
came
you
in-
that.
My grandfather came in 1918.
I'm not the baby. There's 10 of us all together, counting this brother. And Alec was the youngest. He was a doctor. He was a surgeon. And he was the abdominal surgery, and he got his fellowship in medicine. And he was the youngest one. And I was the third, and then my sister, Ruby. We always went together. We always did things together. And then my dad, I think, became a minister. And then he didn't have a wife and had to go and find a wife. And there was nobody here, so he went to China. He went to Hong Kong. And someone recommended my mother. My mother was a school teacher, and she was the daughter of Lei Jik-sung. Lei Jik-sung is famous. I don't know if you know he's famous, but he was a rebel, and he was one of those people who was against the emperors, and they were going to have a revolution.
Big pies, big bread, you know. And then she takes it to the church, and then they sell it, and then they will use the funds for activities for children. And you know, in those days the church is very poor, you know, and they used to have big sale, and my mother is right in the middle of it. And she's very good at that. And you know, in 1963, when she was ill and dying, I went back to Victoria, and I was amazed that she has so many young friends, old friends. They all came to her funeral, and they told me how loving my mother is, and how caring. And they always go to visit my mother, because they always know she's always welcomed them, and they always know they have a piece of apple pie.
How old were you when your mother passed away?
When my father passed away, I was not even 4 years old. Yeah, so I really didn't know my father very much. But I do know he takes a very active part in the community, both Chinese and Caucasian, because he attended the Chinese Presbyterian Church. He became a Christian, and he raises up all from the church. We were baptized at the Chinese Presbyterian Church.
To the Chinese YMCI.
Right.
And I think that the church paid the minister, and the church paid the women workers.
Right.
At least the Women's Missionary Society paid the women's missionaries, women workers there.
Right.
And, that was the setup. And the
this
church was always in the evening.
My earliest recollection of the church is in the University Avenue, in the big room, in the Wise building. At the time, just in the service in the evening, and there's a lot of ladies in the congregations. In the early day, our church service in Cantonese until we moved to 177 Beverly Street. At the time, as a lot of Canadian-born children start growing up, so they do not understand the Chinese that well, so they like to have English service itself. Of course, my grandfather was in the church, so he brought me down from our house to the church. Usually we arrive in afternoon, early afternoon. At the time they have a different activity in there, something like Chinese school, English class, and also the service was held in the evening.
Well, my name is Stephanie Ling, and I was introduced to the Toronto Chinese Presbyterian Church way back in 1971 when I married Winston, who was an elder at the church. So around 1984, I was approached by the Chinese the Chinese Young Men's Christian Institute here, who saw and noticed a gap in looking after young children and also reaching out to the families at that time, primarily the mothers. So they approached me knowing that I had a fairly extensive educational background, having taught in the public school system out in Victoria, BC, and they wanted me to renew this childcare. But I said, a lot of families are not looking just for childcare anymore. They're looking for a strong foundational educational place to look after the children.
How old were you when you came to?
When I arrived, I was late 17 years old when I arrived. And the room in the Y is in the main floor. And this just a normal setup with a lot of chairs, movable chair, because in the normal day they were used for other purpose.
One voice cried, "Prepare, prepare, prepare the way of the Lord."
Some things will never change. God never changes. The Bible never changes. The gospel of Jesus Christ will never change. But how we communicate our message and how we make the gospel relevant to the people around us, that can change. Let us be inspired by our history and invigorated for the future to build a greater church for God's kingdom.